welcome back to the deep dive. So here's the mission. You give us the sources, articles, research, or, well, in this case, these incredibly detailed private tour descriptions.
Right.
And we synthesize them. We cut right through the marketing copy to get to the pure distilled knowledge. It's your shortcut to expertise.
And today, we are heading straight into the heart of Iceland, a really deep dive into the island's south coast. We're analyzing materials that promise to connect you with its core essence.
That soul that lives between fire and ice.
That's the one.
I love that phrase. It sets the whole stage, doesn't it?
It really does.
So you gave us two really exhaustive itineraries for a private 10-hour tour.
Yeah.
Our job was to pull out the history, the geology, the legends, and of course the logistics that really shaped this trip.
Exactly. It's an expert's look at a curated experience. We're not just looking at a map of stops. We're trying to uncover the thousands of years of history that make them so important.
Okay, let's unpack this. But before we get to the black sands and, the blue ice, we have to start where it all begins. The launch point for any South Coast trip, Reykjavik.
Reykjavik is so much more than just a capital city. It's your first link to the Viking past. The sources are quick to point out its significance founded way, way back in the 9th century.
By Vikings.
By Vikings. It sets the tone immediately. This journey starts where the first settlements did.
And its name, Smoky Bay, that right there connects it to the land. You hear that and you might think, volcanoes? Ash.
Sure.
But the sources clarify it's actually from the natural geothermal steam that was just rising from the ground.
Yeah.
Centuries ago.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is how that ancient steam is still the defining feature of modern Reykjavik. The sources say that nearly all of the city's heating, it's powered by geothermal energy.
That parallel is incredible to me. The very same thing the first Viking settlers saw, steam coming out of the earth, is now heating every single home and office. That's why in photos of Reykjavik in winter, you see steam coming off the streets. It's a city powered by nature.
Directly by nature. And that connection really informs the whole structure of these tours. I mean, these aren't your typical sightseeing buses. They're fully private.
Right. It's all about exclusivity and connection. Just you and your group with a guide who's also called a storyteller. That changes everything, doesn't it? It's not just about looking at scenery anymore. It's about getting an immersive education.
And the logistics reflect that. You start and end in Reykjavik, but the real focus is on safety and comfort. They're fully insured, which, is absolutely crucial with Iceland's weather.
Oh, that says a lot about the environment right there. So what happens if the weather turns bad?
Well, the sources are clear. If it's genuinely unsafe, like a serious blizzard or a high wind warning, the tour's off. Full refund.
Okay.
But otherwise, the guides just adapt. They adjust the itinerary on the fly. And that flexibility, that shows a real respect for how extreme the environment can be.
And the vehicle itself is part of it. Premium SUVs, Wi-Fi, Icelandic drinks, water, protein bars.
They're trying to minimize all the friction, right? So you can just focus on the landscape. They even have add-ons like a SIM card and an Icelandic souvenir. It's a high-end expedition.
It definitely sets the stage for a smooth day, so. Let's leave the city. Let's hit the first major stops where water meets ancient stone, the waterfalls, starting with the big one, Skogafoss.
Skogafoss is famous for its power, obviously, but the sources give us this geological context that it makes it so much more profound, that massive cliff it flows over.
Yeah.
Millennia ago, that was Iceland's coastline.
Wait, what? The cliff itself was the coast. That implies a huge amount of geological change.
A massive shift. Centuries ago, the North Atlantic Ocean came right up to that point. The land uplifted, the shoreline receded, and this fossilized coastline was left behind.
And a place that grand is bound to have stories.
Oh, absolutely. Which leads us right to the legend of the Viking, Hrassi Sturluson.
The hidden treasure.
The famous hidden treasure. The lore says he hid a huge chest of gold behind the falls.
I love this story. People tried to get it, but the chest disappeared, and all they were left with was the handle. And here's the detail that makes it real.
The handle is in the museum.
Exactly. The sources confirm it's on display at the Skogar Museum right nearby. It's not just a myth. There's a physical piece of it.
It creates this beautiful link, the raw geology and tangible human history. And the tour pivots so well from the iconic to the intimate because right next door is Kvörnufoss.
The secret spot. Historically, it sounds like it was just a quiet, functional place where farmers would get water for their fields.
Pretty much. But the reason it's a critical stop is the experience. With Skogafoss, you look at it from the front. Kvernufas, you can walk directly behind the curtain of water.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they highlight it as a favorite spot for, cinematic and romantic shots because you can get that unique perspective.
It's the quiet counterpoint to Skogafoss's roar. Okay, so we've moved from the ancient coastline. Now we're heading right into the main theme, fire and ice.
And that starts with the Solheimajøkul Glacier.
This is really the heart of the journey. Solheimajøkul isn't just ice. The sources define it as an outlet glacier from the much bigger Mjøndalsjökull ice cap.
And here's the critical detail that changes everything. Beneath that massive ice cap lies Katla.
One of Iceland's most active and powerful volcanoes.
Exactly. So when you are standing on that glacier, you are standing directly over this potential for massive, violent upheaval.
That tension is what makes it so profound. The guides note the ice itself is over 1,000 years old. They describe exploring its blue crevasses as being like stepping into a sci-fi movie.
1,000 years of pure, cold history sitting right on top of one of the planet's heat engines.
What happens when Katla erupts under all that ice?
That's where the real danger is. It melts the ice cap from below, causing what Icelanders call a jökulhlaup, a massive, sudden flash flood of ice, water, and rock. Understanding that is key to the whole region.
Okay, that definitely puts the power into perspective. Moving south from there, we get to the coast itself. Features shaped by that same volcanic fire, like
Dorhole Island. It's about 100,000 years old, formed by volcanic eruptions. And it used to be a completely separate island from the mainland.
A natural arch. But it's not just about the rock, is it? The wildlife is a huge part of it.
Huge. In summer, the source is highlighted as a major spot for nesting puffins. You get the puffins, the crashing waves. It's the perfect photo op.
And from the arch, we land on what might be the most famous image of the South Coast, Reynisfjara Beach.
The black sand beach, yes.
Really?
Probably recognizable worldwide.
It's so visually dramatic. The black volcanic sand and those geometric basalt columns. How do they even form like that?
It's all about cooling. When lava cools really, really quickly, it shrinks. And that contraction creates stress fractures. The most energy-efficient shape for those fractures is a hexagon. So you get these perfect columns.
Geology turning molten rock into perfect geometry.
Right. But, of course, local legend has a much more dramatic explanation.
Of course it does. Trolls.
Trolls. The folklore says the columns aren't rock at all, but trolls who got caught out at sunrise and were turned to stone.
That contrast between the science and the lore, it tells you so much about the culture.
It really does.
But the beauty of Reynisfjara comes with a really serious warning. Every tour description emphasizes this. Beware of the sneaker waves. What exactly is a sneaker wave? Is it just a big wave?
It's more specific and more dangerous than that. Reynisfjara has no protective continental shelf, so the full power of the Atlantic hits the shore. Sneaker waves aren't always the biggest waves, but they're sudden surges that rush way, way higher up the beach than the waves before them, with no warning.
And they can just pull you in.
Instantly. Into freezing water. The warning is not an exaggeration. It is life or death. Serious.
A place that's as dangerous as it is beautiful. That theme just runs through the whole South Coast narrative.
And that drama has drawn a lot of attention. The sources confirm it's been in major productions like Game of Thrones and Star Wars. Rogue One.
From the beach, the journey ends up in Iceland's southernmost village, Vik.
Or Viki Myrdal, yeah. It's historically been this isolated fishing hub. But what's fascinating is how it pulls all these geological risks we've talked about, especially the threat from Katla, into its actual town planning.
Which brings us to that iconic white church on the hill.
That's it. The sources are explicit. It was built on that hill for protection. It's not just a church. It's the designated high ground safety point for the whole town in case of a jökulhlaup.
That massive glacial flood from Katla we talked about earlier.
Exactly. Their entire modern safety plan is built around that volcano. When you see that perfectly placed church, you're not just looking at a postcard. You're looking at a survival strategy.
And like the beach, the scenery around Vik, the Reynisdrangar sea stacks, has been in films too. Noah, and again, Star Wars. Hollywood knows where to go for drama.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this whole journey is a narrative. The entire route is shaped by fire and ice. That dual force created the geology, it inspired the legends of trolls and treasure, and it even dictates modern safety planning, like where to put the Vik Church.
Here's where it gets really interesting for you. The sources prove this is more than a tour. It's a shortcut to deep knowledge. The guides aren't just pointing at rocks. They're telling you the story of Iceland's creation.
So, to sum it up, You now know that Reykjavik is a Viking capital still heated by the very steam that named it. Skogafoss was an ancient coastline that might still hold a Viking's treasure.
And you know that while the black sands look incredible, you have to respect the lethal danger of the sneaker waves.
And most critically, you now have the background to appreciate not just what you're seeing, that thousand-year-old ice, but why it looks the way it does. You're seeing the result of an ongoing elemental conflict.
The source material repeatedly stresses safety, right? The danger of Katla, the placement of that church, and Vik.
It's a constant threat. But we also spent time explaining how the beautiful ancient ice of Solheimsjökull is created by that very same system.
So the final thought for you to mull over is this. How does that constant underlying threat of the volcano, that catastrophic force, change your perception of the beautiful ancient ice it creates? It forces you to think about how beauty and extreme danger are just completely intertwined on Iceland's South Coast.
Something to think about the next time you see a picture of that perfect blue ice.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.